Okay, Chair, we're now live.
Thank you. And good evening, everybody, and welcome to this virtual meeting of the Southern Rural Committee that is being conducted with members and officers at various locations, communicating via audio, video, and online. Before the meeting starts, I would like to invite the committee member and scrutiny officer, William Edwards, to explain how proceedings will work and to confirm that members and officers are in attendance.
Thank you, Chair. I will start with our roll call. When I call your name, please can you indicate your attendance to confirm that the required members, officers and registered speakers are present and can hear and be heard. I'll start with your surnames if that's okay. Councillor Barnard.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Bishop.
Here.
Thank you very much. Councillor Davies.
Here.
We have apologies from Councillor Deacon Davies and from Councillor Frost. Councillor Moody may be joining us later. Councillor Nash.
Present.
Councillor North is absent. Councillor Strong.
Present.
Thank you very much. Councillor Tyler.
Present.
Thank you. Christopher White.
Present.
Thank you very much. Stuart Biddle.
Present.
Thank you. And Ted Edwards.
Present.
Thank you very much. And our officers, Claire Morgan.
Hello, yes, hello.
And Matthew Hepburn.
Yes, present.
Thank you very much. Extracts from the remote and partly remote meetings protocol are included with the agenda, and the full version is available on the Council's website, which includes information regarding live streaming, noise interference, the rules of debate, voting, and Part 2 items. Members are requested to ensure that they are familiar with the protocol. Are there any questions before we start the meeting? Thank you very much. Councillor Strong, over to you.
Thank you very much. So just to confirm, item 1 of the agenda, which the apologies, as we've heard, we've had apologies from Councillors Frost, Deacon Davis, and Councillor Moody may be able to join us, but I think many of you know he does work with the emergency 111 line, so I'm expecting that he may not make it, or we might be very late. Notifications of other business for tonight's agenda, I have had none. So under item 5, Chairman's announcements, I would like to welcome everybody this evening who is present, and particularly I'd like to welcome our 3 speakers. In accordance with the Council's policy, this meeting is being audio recorded as well as filmed. The audio recordings will be available to view on mod.gov and the film recording via the NHDC YouTube channel. Members are reminded to make declarations of interest before an item, or if they forget, I'm very happy to take them halfway through an item. And I need to remind about this, and the speaking rights is set out under the Chairman's announcements on our agenda. I will take item 6 now, which is public participation. And we have 3 speakers tonight. So a warm welcome to them, all of you. The first of our speakers is going to be Christopher White, who's going to talk about the FC Comets. And then we have Stuart Biddle from Nebworth Football Club, and then Paul Edwards, otherwise known, I understand, as Ted, from Offaly Primary School PTA. So I'd like to invite Christopher White, if you could turn your camera on and your microphone on, and you have 5 minutes to address the committee. And then with your indulgence, we would probably like to come and ask you some questions.
Yeah, of course. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, thank you.
Good. Okay, I shall start. And thank you very much for giving me the time and the opportunity to speak to you this evening. So my name's Chris White. I'm the Youth Development Officer for FC Comets. We're a Hitchin-based football club, youth football club. We have around 200 children playing in our organisation at the moment, from 8 to 18-year-olds. We were formed in 2002. And I think how we differ slightly from some of the other clubs in Hitchin is that we're not selective, amazingly, even at an entry level for football these days of children who are 7 or 8. There's a trial system to enter these clubs at the moment because the supply-demand dynamic is completely out of kilter. The Comets approach has always been not to trial entry into their teams, but actually make it as open and accessible for everybody. And we also pride ourselves on being affordable, particularly at the moment. As a club, we've had numerous cases where actually, funding for children to play football is difficult for parents at the moment, and we've always prided ourselves on finding solutions to allow everyone to participate and play. What I'm seeking today is approval for some funding to purchase a new set of metal goals, specifically targeted at our new teams at the under 7s and under 8s age group. We currently have a long waiting list of children aged 6 to 8 wanting to play. What we have always struggled with, as any organisation of Comets will do, is the number of volunteers. We're purely a volunteer-based organisation, and what we've found through the lockdown COVID experience is, I suppose, people reassessing what's important to them, and also parents not commuting into London or not driving for work long distances actually have more time on their hands and have maybe just reassessed what's important to them as people, as families, and for their children. So we're actually in a position where, for the first time ever, really, we've got an abundance of volunteers wanting to get involved at that younger age group. What we're lacking at the moment, purely and simply, is the goals, which will then allow us to enter teams into a league in the spring and also be a springboard for next season. We've seen participation numbers in the club rocket this year, and we've obviously had a very stop-start season. When I say season, I mean from February through to now, because we continued training all through the summer this year, because it was a window where we were allowed to train in a COVID compliant safe way in accordance with FA guidelines. And our participation numbers of children wanting to be involved in organised sport has never been higher. We have now bodies, we have children, we just need some assistance with funding for some of the equipment, mainly the goals, to allow us actually to start that age group properly in the spring. I think the other thing that we've recognised through lockdown is the importance for children to play organised sport outside of their school environment. My son is 9, my daughter's 11, they both play football, and they've essentially been, we were locked down in the summer, when they're now gone back to school, they're essentially locked into that school bubble, and that school is absolutely fine. But having organised sport which crosses schools, puts children in different environments for their own mental health, we have found, and I found that with my own children particularly, we found that to be helpful. And the other thing is, a lot of children have suffered in lockdown through the lack of obesity. I think is going to be a real issue next year for this country, and having some organised sport in place twice a week for children aged 6, 7, 8, 9, that's affordable, that's local, that's put on in a safe manner, I think is really important. And no, we just haven't quite got the playing facility to allow that whole group of about 40 local children aged 6 to 9 to play for FC Comets, and these goals would simply allow that to happen. The other thing I think we've found is that, and I can my own children here, is that we might not be taking on the best footballers in the world. That's not important at all. Actually, what we're doing here is starting children off on a journey of playing sport at the age of 6 and 7, and if we can set them off on the right foot to start with, this is a life skill they're going to be learning. This is an opportunity just to continue growing as children, as people, through sport. So I feel very passionately about the importance of organised sport for children's mental health, their physical well-being, and I think the impact of and the effects of the COVID lockdown situation is just to re-emphasise to everybody, from football organisations and governing bodies down to parents, how important it is for children to have outlets in an organised, safe, structured way. So we're asking for a grant of £800, which would be put towards the goals, which cost £960. The club are willing to put in the rest, but it would allow us immediately to purchase the goals, which would then allow us immediately in February and March to actually kickstart a programme to allow 40 kids to play football aged between 6 and 9, and that creates the springboard for the new teams to be formed immediately. So I think it could have a hugely positive impact on a number of children very quickly.
Okay, thank you, Christopher. Do any of the committee members have any questions? If they'd like to raise their hand. I suddenly realised I haven't got my participants list up. Oh, you're waving that way, are you, Councillor Barnard? So
That's all right.
got to come off mute though.
Yeah, I'm not very technical, as you can see. Yeah, if I may ask a question, Chair, and that is, have you sought any funding or grant aid from any other sources, such as the Football Association or the Hearts Sports Partnership or Hearts FA?
So the Football Foundation is the one which we steered towards, but their funding is generally replacing unsafe equipment. What we're trying to do actually is to purchase new equipment, because our participation numbers are so much higher than they have been before. So there is money which our club and where we play has benefited from, which goes into the playing facilities. But what we're actually seeking for is goals, and I'm not aware of anyone else or any other funding source that specifically would allow us to purchase a new set of goals.
Fine. The question that I asked is, have you approached any others? Have you been to the Hearts FA? Have you been to the Hearts Sports Partnership or anywhere else?
We've been to the Hearts FA, who in turn posted us to the Football Foundation, who in turn said that unless your equipment is unsafe, then our funding structure doesn't work for you, which our facilities are unsafe, they're new facilities.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any further questions? Just looking around. No. So I'd like to thank you, Christopher, for your presentation. As we're going to do all our public participation now, and then we will be considering the grant applications later on in the meeting. You are more than welcome to stay with us, but I do understand if you don't particularly want to, you are quite welcome to leave the meeting whenever you feel. But could I just ask that you do turn your camera off? Thank you. So our next speaker is Stuart Biddle from Nebworth FC. So Stuart, if you'd like to turn your camera on, and the floor is yours for 5 minutes. And I must say, I'm not timing. I'm relying on committee services to do the timing.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, councillors. Nebworth Football Club, for those of you who aren't aware, 30 teams, around about 350 members. Like the Comets team, very inclusive. We've got age groups from 3 through to veterans, and we've got 4 girls teams as well included in that. We've also got mixed teams, so where that's a mix of young boys and young girls. So our girls participation is very active. At this time, we're unable to use the changing rooms because of social distancing and coronavirus measures that are in place. So what we're looking for is some funding to get some 3 metre by 6 metre gazebos that will provide shelter during the wet weather that we have at the moment, and that we have coming over the next couple of months. Total cost is £400. We're seeking £200. We have got £100 from the Football Foundation, and we've also got £100 from our own club reserves. So that's it. Unless you've got any other questions, I don't think I need the 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Stuart. Does anybody have any questions? If you'd either like to raise your hands or wave at me. No, in that case, thank you very much, Stuart. And as I said to the other speaker, if you'd like to turn your camera off, you are more than welcome to stay with us. But I do understand if I've suddenly discovered that you've disappeared, I will not be offended.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And moving on, our last speaker this evening is Paul Edwards, Ted from Offaly PTA. Ted,
Hi, good evening. I'm not actually from the PTA. I'm the head teacher of Offaly Primary School and Nursery.
My apologies.
No, that's fine. That's fine. The PTA, known as the OSA, are supporting us with this bid as well. They're donating some of the money. So I know that some people are very familiar with the school. I know Councillor David Barnard does a little piece in the Village Voice alongside myself, but some of you may not be familiar with Offaly particularly. So we're a small rural school, lovely little school, Ofsted Good, in a village, and the school really is the heart of the community. We've found over the last few years that the village is growing in numbers, more young families are moving into the village, and it became necessary for the school through our admissions process to open a breakfast club and after school provision for the children, because the facilities locally weren't were fading out. So we opened an after-school club in line with our nursery in September, which we've called Jesters. I've managed to fund the club partly through the school budget, but the majority of the budget will go on paying for staff wages, and then the money that is incoming from parents excuse me, pays for the wages. But what we found is that we've got quite a shortfall in money to provide the opportunity for the children to partake in activities. So my reason for applying for these funds was really on 2 or 3 different levels. The first one we thought of as a school, from a safeguarding point of view, the building we're using is at the back of the school that's used as a classroom in the day. But in an evening it hasn't been used at all, and it's extremely dark down there, and we're finding that it's quite hazardous for parents to collect their children at 6 o'clock. Excuse me. So we're looking for a little bit of money towards additional lighting, which I've received a few quotes for now, just to make the security element better, to have some censored lighting as well, so it's opposite the houses near the school, so it is going off. But we've had some children who are slipping on the metal steps at the back of the building, so it's important, I think, to get our lighting and security in place as soon as possible, especially in these dark evenings. We're also looking at putting a few different lights out the back, which we haven't currently had, so we can encourage the children for outdoor play after school. So we have a nice field at the front of the school, but it is on the roadside, so we'd like to put some lighting around the back, so the children can go out and play a little bit of sport, football and netball after school as well. So the first element is security, health and safety and lighting. Secondly, we would like to purchase some indoor games that's separate to the school. So we're looking at some art resources, some soft furnishings like bean bags, a portable cooking oven, so we can do some cooking with the children because we have no facilities outside the main school building, and a variety of board games and that sort of thing that's fairly inexpensive. And then finally, from an outdoor provision, I'd like to pay for a coach to come in. I have a coach lined up who's working with the school from the school budget with the pupils, but I'd like him to offer some facilities after school for the children. I know it'll be professionally run, and I just want to give them, similar to what Christopher was saying, for young children to participate in sports, and we've got it in school, and I'd like to encourage that after school as well. I also had on my list some football posts that I could really use, and some rechargeable torches for activities. So really, my school budget is obviously stretched, as you know. It's taken up with the provision of the education for the children from 9 o'clock in the morning till 3:15, and I was really looking for some support and in any way to provide more opportunities for the children after school. And from a community point of view, I had about 10 families say they would like to come to Offaly, but they didn't want to come to Offaly because there was no after school provision. So I promised all these people that if I'm doing it myself, there would be after school provision in September, because I didn't want to lose these families. So we have managed to get about 10 to 12 families come to this school purely because we're running Jesters, and it's really successful. I've got fantastic staff running it. But what I'd like to do is encourage more children to come, which gives the opportunity for parents to return back to work. I know most of my children have got young families who are attending, children in nursery, reception, year 1. And I know many of them are looking at opportunities to get back into work after the 12 months that we've had. And I think by me being able to, in my newsletter, in the Village Voice, tell them the sort of things that we are doing with professional sports people coming in, it will encourage more people to go to work knowing that their children are safe in my Jesters after school provision. So to summarise then, I know I've put a bid in that's, when I look at what the other two chaps are saying, seems quite expensive at £1,250. I am happy to take any contribution that could be forthcoming to the school to help us achieving some of these ambitions. Offaly has the PTA, Offaly School Association. They're pretty strapped for cash at the moment because their fundraising hasn't been as fruitful because we haven't been able to put on the Christmas show. Well, we have, but not with parents attending, so we've missed out on a couple of £1,000 with the summer fair and the Christmas plays that would normally sort of provide an income for these sorts of things, but unfortunately due to COVID we've been able to do that in these current times. But they have got some money that they're willing to give towards this, but unfortunately it's not very much. So that's really my plea today is there any money that will support my after school club to support families in Offaly community returning back to work? And that's it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Ted. Are there any questions, please, from members? Oh, Claire.
Can I just mention that we can only consider the application that's in the report. The application that was made was for equipment for the after school club. It didn't mention lighting or any of the other items. And if the school want to apply for that, then they need to put in an application for those items. We can't, I need to get an application in and it has to go through the process. So we can't suddenly start funding items that weren't applied for in the first place. So if we could just consider the application on the on what was made in the first instance on what is in the report, then that's what we need to do.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I mean, this is my dream, my wish list, obviously, and that the expense goes up and up and up. But the LSA, we are doing a fundraising raffle ticket at the moment for Christmas. So we've raised £480 in the last week. So this additional money will go towards the lighting from the PTA.
You can't use the money for lighting when you've applied to use it for equipment.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, we'll pay for the lighting.
Okay, right.
Okay. And the other thing you mentioned was salaries, and I didn't think that we were able to provide grant for salaries. Claire Morgan, can you just advise on that?
No, we can. The new grant criteria, you can.
Does it? Okay. All right. But you're right.
But that's not what was applied for.
No, okay.
Salaries are paid for by the children attending, so that's covered it with it.
Okay.
I'm not applying for salaries. I'm not.
Okay. In that case, I've got indication from Councillor John Bishop and Councillor David Barnard. So Councillor John Bishop, if you can go first, and then I'll come to you, Councillor Barnard.
Yeah, I think what I was going to ask has been covered. Claire, could you tell me how much was applied for? I'm sorry, I don't have the papers in front of me.
They've applied for 1,250.
Oh, that's in the papers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That's me done, thank you.
Yeah.
And Councillor Barnard.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I mean, obviously I know the school very well, and it's a brilliant school. The point that I'd like to make then is, if you were minded to perhaps say, well, you've now applied for lighting and this, that, and everything else, and that's non-compliant or whatever, I would like to think that the committee could consider, without the addition of the lighting, which has only just been mentioned, and then maybe the county council could perhaps through the locality budget put some money towards the lighting if that is applicable. So don't be too concerned about what's in the application. I think we need to be concerned about the amount of money that is applied for, and in the knowledge that it will be well used. Thank you.
Barnard. But I think as Claire Morgan from the community engagement said, that the application that she's verified was for equipment, and the total in that for the equipment was 1,250. That's correct, isn't it, Claire? Yes, she's nodding. Okay, in that case, if there's no more questions, I'd like to thank you, Ted, for coming. And as with the others, if you could turn your camera off, you are more than welcome to stay. And we now move then on to item number 7, which is a grants and community update. And Claire Morgan is to present. So floor is yours, Claire.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just start off with going through what you have available in the budget. At the moment, we've been spending out of last year's budget. That is now all spent. The last grant that was awarded in the last meeting in September was kind of split across using up the rest of last year's budget, and some of it came from this year's budget. So what you have left to spend for this meeting and then the last meeting of the civic year in March is 7,399. So there's plenty of money in the budget to cover the grants that you're considering this evening. So if I move on to the grants, and I'll start with the FC Comets, who are based in Ickleford. And they're asking for 800 towards goalposts so that they can expand the provision for younger children. I don't know if you...
Well, I'm happy as chair to make a proposal for the FC Comets, if I can, will somebody second? Now, I think we had a very passionate presentation there about this particular organisation for having that. And I am minded that because I know with these small groups and activities that they are having great difficulties in actually finding and raising money themselves. And we do know that when we've granted, we don't usually like to see these organisations back again for a couple of years. And this particular organisation is going to be putting in, they said, some funding activities of their own of £159. And so that would reduce the grant from us. Their total project cost was £959 for £959.51. I would like to propose that we grant them the full amount that they would like. We have the money in the budget, and it's a tough year for these clubs. There's somebody who would like. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Does anybody have any other comments? If not, I'm going to ask that we vote in the usual way. So committee, are you ready for us to take a vote? So it's green for yes, red for no, or raised hand for abstaining. So if you could go to the vote on this one, please.
Oh, which button do I press on the bottom here?
Yes, yes is green.
By participants.
Sorry, say that again?
Sorry, the buttons are at the bottom of your screen under participants. Green for yes, red for no, and the raise hand button to abstain.
Well, I press participants and it says, oh, hang on.
Yeah, now you get a list.
There we
and
are.
at the bottom of the participants list, you'll find the buttons.
I've got him.
And Chair, that vote is carried.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. And back to you, Claire, for the next grant.
Thank you. So the next one is the Nebworth FC. They wish to purchase 2 gazebos. The cost of the gazebos is £400. They've got 100 from the Football Foundation and 100 from their own reserves. So they're requesting £200 from the committee's budgets.
Thank you, Claire. And I think on this one, in being fair, I'd like to again suggest and like to propose from the chair, if somebody will second me, that again that we won't ask them to take money out of their club reserves, and that we would award them £300. We'll let the Football Federation chip in 100, but I think if we could chip in 300 to them. So that's been seconded. My proposal has been seconded by Councillor Terry Tyler. Councillor Barnard, you've got your hand up. Did you want to speak?
Well, yeah. the only thing that concerns me here is that they're buying 2 gazebos, and the gazebos are only £200 each. I'm just wondering whether they're going to get the sort of quality that they would be looking for. I know we're obviously asked for a certain amount of money, and we're going to hopefully grant that amount of money, but I would have perhaps liked to have seen an application for more robust and therefore more expensive, but there we are.
Well, Councillor Barnard, that's what they've asked us for, and that's their breakdown. I would hope that by the middle of next year they won't need any gazebos, and that they'll actually be able to go inside and not have to rely on trying to provide shelter out of doors as well.
Well, maybe they'll put their gazebos up and invite us along for a drink.
Maybe they will. But anyway, I've proposed it from the chair. It's been seconded from Councillor Tyler. Are we ready to take the vote? Have we cleared down? Thank you. If we could now go to the vote, please. Again, green, red, or raised hands. All could vote now, please.
Thank you very much. And once again, Chair, that vote is carried.
Thank you very much. That was unanimous, as far as I can
Can
see.
I just confirm that was for 300?
That was for £300.
And finally, the Jesters After School Club in Offaly Primary School requesting 1,250 for equipment for the after school club that's sort of COVID friendly, in that it could easily wipeable and clean, easy to clean down.
Okay. Beyond that, councillors?
Oh, come on, you're going to propose it from the chair.
Well, I was wondering whether you wanted to do it, David.
No, I'd like to second you.
Okay, I will propose then from the chair that we would like to grant 1,250. I'd like somebody to second that, please.
I thought I just did.
Thank you, Councillor Barnard. There's nobody else has got any comment on that or debate. In that case, can we go to the vote, please, Matthew? And we're voting.
Oh, something's gone wrong here. So try that again.
I am waiting for you to vote, Councillor Barnard.
No, I know.
There you
I lost my little green dot.
Fantastic. Thank you, councillors. That vote is carried.
If Ted Edwards is there, then through you, Chair, may I invite him to contact me concerning some funding for the lighting?
Yeah, I've just unmuted myself. I won't show my video. That's certainly, David. Yes, you're welcome to come. Even though we are being very careful, we are inviting people to look around the school as long as they're masked up. So please come and see my school anytime you like, so I can show you around, because I haven't had that opportunity yet. But I'd be delighted to discuss the lighting with you. Yes, anytime.
Please contact me, and we'll get a time. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, moving on, Claire, back to you for the rest of your report.
Yes, I haven't got anything to add to the report, but I have got some updates of kind of activities that have been going on since I wrote the report a couple of weeks ago. At the moment, the community engagement team are working on 2 events that will be happening early next year. I think you might have already received the save the date for the Holocaust Memorial Day event, which is on Wednesday the 27th of January at 11 o'clock, and it will be a live Zoom event, or you'll be able to watch it on YouTube live. At the moment, we're running a children's art competition to go along with on the lead up to that event, and the winners' artwork will be on the order of service. So for young children, sort of primary school age, 5 to 11 years old, it's an art competition to draw a picture of being the light in the darkness is the theme of Holocaust Memorial Day this year. And for the sort of older kids, teenagers, 11 to 18-year-olds, then it's a creative writing piece that's one side of A4. And again, that will be read out at the event. And the other thing we've got going on at the moment is the Chair's Volunteer Achievement Award. And we've got 4 categories in the Volunteer Achievement Award. One is a sort of coronavirus caring award for any of those people who suddenly stepped up and gone above and beyond to help their local community, their neighbours and the people living around them. There's a green award for anybody who's doing sort of volunteering and environmentally friendly or growing things. Oh, hang on, am I a bit muffled? I think I have my pad over my microphone.
That's better.
I still haven't worked out where the microphone actually is on my laptop. And the other award is Young Star Award for any young people under the age of 25 that have done anything amazing. And the other award is the Dedication Award, which is a kind of long service award. So if you know any of those stalwarts volunteering that have been going for decades, turning up every week to run the local club or help out the village hall, then those are the sort of people that we want nominated for those awards. The deadline for nominations is the 18th of December, so you don't have a lot of time, but the nomination form is online on the council website. Very simple form to fill in. So you just put as much detail as you can about how wonderful the person is and why they deserve the award. And then the judging is on, I think, the 11th of January. And what we're going to be doing this year, obviously we're not going to have the Chair's Civic reception as usual because we're not allowed to meet up. But what we'll be doing is making a film of all the award winners, so that it'll be, I don't know, about a half an hour film, and Terry will go and meet the people who are the award winners and hand them their award, and we'll do a little interview with them about what they do and the organisation they work for. John, you're waving at me, Councillor Bishop.
I'm sorry, Claire, I didn't understand a word of any of you said. Is this in the report?
No, no, it's not. That's why I'm. This is additional to the report.
Put it on an email to us or something.
Yes, I have done actually. It did come
right.
to an email. You remember the Chair's Volunteer Awards because you were chair a couple of years ago. So it's the same deal as when you were chair, but instead of doing an awards ceremony, we're going to make a film.
Okay.
Basically, and then that film will be shown at the live civic fundraising event that's going to be again broadcast live, and there'll be all sorts of activities. I'm sure Terry can tell you all about it, of what's going to happen at the Chair's Civic fundraising virtual event, and that's when the video will be shown of the award winners.
Can you remind us all, what is the closing date for nominations for the awards?
18th of December.
Next
and
Friday.
who do we send them to? Is it on that form that I haven't filled in?
When you fill the form in, you press send and it comes through to us.
Oh, it's an online form, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, Chair, sorry, since it's
That's
mentioned,
right.
the civic event will be a totally online event this on the 26th of February. The whole thing will be. So just to let you know that there will be no Hitchin Town Hall or meal. It will be online.
It's a very difficult year, and not, I guess, for you as well as chairman of the council, not being able to get out and about.
Yes, it's been severely reduced the amount of civic events. I'm hoping that that the last few months of being chair, things might pick up for physical meetings, but we'll see.
See.
Chair, did you want to ask me a question about 20-mile-an-hour zones in villages?
Well, we'll come to that when we get to item 8. I was still sort of on item 7.
Right. I don't have anything to add to my report.
So back on item 7, because we're still on 7, the last thing on item 2.2 on the recommendations is that the committee are asked to endorse the actions taken by the community officer and to promote greater community capacity and wellbeing for the southern rural area. So I hope we can all endorse that. Thank you. It's really a note and endorse. So thank you very much for that. Moving on then to item 8 on our agenda. And this is the one for ward matters and outside organisations. Any reports or questions, concerns, or anything else that members would like to raise? So Claire, did you want to raise a couple of things?
Well, you did, when we had our chairs brief, you did mention that some of the parish councils have been talking about trying to find out how to get a 20-mile-an-hour zone in through the village. And I have spoken to Daniel Washington.
You've gone a bit muffly again.
I've gone muffly again. I might not be right over the microphone. I've spoken, is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
I've spoken to Daniel Washington, who's the transport officer, and he said there has been at county, there was a county-wide consultation about speed limits across Hertfordshire. And one of the recommendations regards 20-mile-an-hour zones. But I think basically what the parish councils will need to do is contact county highways and quite possibly undertake some kind of consultation in their own village to prove why a 20-mile-an-hour zone is needed and that the community want it. And then, but there is a process, and Daniel sent me this report, which I can forward to everybody. And Councillor Barnard is waving.
Yes, I saw him wave. Councillor Barnard.
Yeah, thank you for that, Claire. I had a Zoom meeting with David Lloyd, our Police and Crime Commissioner, a couple of weeks ago. And the prime reason was, in fact, to, well, there were three things actually, but one of them was the introduction of 20-mile-an-hour speed limits in our villages. You know, I've got 9 parishes in the county, and each and every one of them wants to see safer villages, safer roads, and so on. First of all, I had contacted all of my clerks and the different parishes are hopefully meeting together. I'm sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied here. They're hopefully all getting together to actually form a group which will give them greater strength when they make their presentations. With David Lloyd, one of the things that he actually came back to me and said, look, we've got this Drive Safe scheme. I'm sure all members are aware of the Drive Safe scheme, which is basically volunteers from the different villages, areas, who will actually have just a minimal training and a high vis, and they actually then will go out there with a police camera, a clipboard, and so on. So and they will at random times record the speed of vehicles coming into their village or out of their village, whichever. And those that are speeding, obviously their numbers will be recorded. They will be sent to the police. The police will then write to the owner of that vehicle, explaining that they have been caught speeding, and take this as a warning. If you are caught again, you will be fined. But more importantly, the data that all of our villages can accumulate can be sent to our Police and Crime Commissioner, and that is the evidence that he wants. That's the rod that he wants to break the back of this, so that he can actually go to his police officials and say, look, here is what is happening in our villages, now do something about it. But he hasn't got any of that evidence at the moment, so it's down to grassroots to actually get hold of all of that evidence, send it to him, and then maybe we can get some action going. Hertfordshire, I have to admit, is not the fastest in the world on this one. Bedfordshire are whacking 20-mile-an-hour speed limits in their villages just like that, and they're really getting them on pretty quickly. I want to see Hertfordshire do the same, and I do implore everybody on the committee here to go to their different parishes and organisations and encourage them to do a Drive Safe. You can get the paperwork, you can either download it or contact the Police and Crime Commissioner. They will send it to you. But it is so good, it doesn't cost anything, and it can actually be very productive. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Barnard. Has anybody else got anything they would like? Oh, Councillor Davies, you've put your hand up. Take yourself off mute.
Thank you. So I wanted to relay to you a matter that came up in Great Wymondley recently, where I was approached by an organisation saying, we've just had some, I believe it was storm damage, but we need to do some urgent works to make safer public space. And can you help us out with any funding for this? And to me, they seem to be doing all the right things. They'd also approached the parish council and their local county councillor, both of whom were able to provide them a contribution towards those works. And so they approached me and I said, yes, certainly. And I think what we should do here is approach the Southern Rural Committee and see if these lovely people could help you out with this. Now, without wishing to get into the individual merits or not of that grant, that application is not going to come to us because the works were urgent, and because of the way the calendar has fallen, there was no opportunity for them to bring an application to the meeting before the works had to be performed. And I believe that we are unable to give grants in retrospect for things that have already happened. And so I'd say, without wishing to debate whether or not we'd have helped out in that particular instance, I thought I'd raise that and ask whether or not we think that is right, or whether that's something we consider next time we review our grants guidelines. To me, it does.
If you'd have come to me and asked if there was something we could do, I would have explained that we do have a process for that eventuality, that we can do grant decisions under a delegated decision that's made by the service director. So if it is an urgent grant and they can't wait because of timing issues for the next committee meeting, they can put the grant application in. And what I will do usually is get an agreement in consultation with the ward member and the chair of the committee. And then I do a delegated decision report, and that goes to the service director. So she officially makes the decision, but it's in consultation with members. So that's the way we would deal with that. So if that ever happens again, just send them to me and say, what can we do? Because we will, we want to help people.
But we have to know about it before they've spent the money, though, don't we, Claire?
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you very much. So it's not a case of we can do them in retrospect, but we can do them outside of the meeting agenda. Yeah. If it's urgent. Okay. Thank you very much for that.
If it's urgent, and they need the money tomorrow to help them, we can do it. But if they've spent the money, we cannot then do it retrospectively. So the key thing is to get the urgency in ASAP.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. But if you're ever in doubt with anything to do with grant funding or any of the groups that might need any kind of support, just give me a shout. Just please send them my direction, or just give me a call. And I can talk you through it, and I'm sure we can find some way to wangle it somehow within the official process, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
Claire Morgan, did you want to mention Hexton Parish Church and Community Centre?
Yes, I have been speaking to St Faith's in Hexton, because they're having financial difficulties at the moment, as a lot of community halls are. Obviously, Hexton's quite a small village. The demographics changed over the last sort of 10 or so years. What they explained to me was that the church is used more as a community facility and just part-time as the church, really. But obviously they've had to close down during the lockdown. There's work that needs doing in there, but they're not exactly sure how they're going to operate when they're able to open again to the public. I know they used to have a play group in there, but that closed down because there weren't enough small children in the village at the time. So I've spoken. They don't exactly know. They think they need more money, basically, but they're not exactly sure how much they need or what they need it for. So we do still have some capital funding left in the Community Facility Capital Grants Fund. But I did say to them, we need to know what you're going to use the facility for and how much money you would need to make that happen. So So basically, I've said to them, I think they need to go back to their local community and find out what they want to use that community space for. And then once they've worked that out, do the community want to use that space and what will they use it for? And then they can cost out what sort of funding they might need, and then I might be able to help them. I think Councillor Barnard has also spoken to them.
Yeah, thank you for raising that, Claire. The St Faith's Church was, if it wasn't the first, it was either the second or third in the country to actually be converted from purely a place of worship into a community centre, and it is quite clearly divided. Don't ask me to name the different parts of the church, but the bit up the front by the altar, with that is the place of worship, and then there is the replacement for the defunct village hall, if you like, is the main body, and that is used for community groups. As you quite rightfully mentioned, the playgroup unfortunately has moved out and is unlikely to be regurgitated. But quite clearly, like all old buildings, you know, it does require an income in order to be able to just maintain itself in a usable condition. So I hope that he does come back with a presentable application that we might, as a committee within the community, support. Thank you.
Thank you. While we've got the officers here, can you just remind us all what the cut-off date is for grants for our next committee meeting? Because our next committee meeting will be on the 4th of March.
I think it was middle of February, off the top of my head.
Okay, so early Feb.
Or is it end of Jan? I'll email you all.
Yeah, if you could do that, I think again it would be, because I know sometimes we don't like to disappoint, and so if we are at parish council meetings,
we do already have some grants that will be coming to that meeting.
Okay.
That came in too late for this meeting, but they'll be coming in for March.
Okay, lovely for that. And also our next meeting, as I've mentioned, it is the 4th of March, and at our meeting on the 4th of March, it is that time of the year when we normally have a visit from the police to give us their annual report, which I'm sure we're all looking forward to. Does anybody have a quick thing? Is there anything particular that you would like information on? Because if you would like to speak up now, we can at least feed that into the officer who's coming, so that they are prepared, and or if there's a particular theme of the meeting or anything else you'd like them to present on. Councillor Barnard.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's me talking again, isn't it? But again, every parish that I go to, and so many emails that I get are complaining about the openness of the drug dealing in our villages. And then we've got these gas canister things and little silver things that are thrown everywhere now. It is getting worse. And I know that pretty well every time we get the police along to one of our committee meetings, we do mention it, we do ask them, and they do say, well, you know, we haven't got firm evidence and everything else there. It's absolute rubbish. We've got videos, we've got statements, we've got photographs, we've got absolutely everything. The police are sitting on their hands. We need to do something about this, and we need to be forceful. Thank you.
Okay. So when whoever's confirming with the police, perhaps they could mention that will be a particular hot topic that we'd like to have some discussion up when they are visiting us. The other comment I had for them is that I know that about this time last year, I went to one of their priority setting meetings for the rural district. Haven't seen a follow-up, and I recognise it's probably difficult, but it would be nice again to have an update on what the priorities are, and that might tie into what Councillor Barnard is asking about as well. Oh, I've got somebody put a message up. Oh, thank you, Claire. Grant deadline is the 15th of February. Anybody else got any comments about our next meeting or anything that they particularly like to see us discussing at Southern Rural? Again, it's our meeting, so we are free to do and invite who we would like. Nope. In that case, I think I could draw our meeting to a close and thank you all very much for coming tonight. And as it's that seasonal time of the year, normally we'd be hanging around and having a glass of wine and well, no, we wouldn't be having a glass of wine because if we were at the council offices, we're not allowed alcohol, but we would have been having the seasonal mince pie. So anyway, I hope I can wish all of you a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and I hope you've all found some family baubles that you can network into. I'm not calling them bubbles, they're baubles, and have a good festive time, and we'll see you all again in March for Southern Rural. Thank you very much.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you. Merry Christmas. Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.